I feel like you have some medical news to share. Is that a gentle segue into what we're going to be talking about?
It is. It was so smooth, I barely even noticed.
Thank you.
As smooth as the thermometer that went up my anus.
Yes. Wow. That is some medical news. So it was several weeks back.
Yep.
You made some comments about how it had been so long since you'd been to a doctor. I said, you goddamn millennials. And you said, none of us have any fucking insurance.
Yep.
And then I made a comment about how you can go to a doctor for a cash price. It's about $100. And you laughed at me.
Well, that's if nothing's wrong with you.
Well, that's when you're supposed to go.
Yeah.
It's called a wellness visit. Anyways, you finally had so much fucking wrong with you that you had no choice but to start seeking out medical care.
Yes.
That brings everyone up to speed.
Okay, great. So I went in and I spoke to this doctor who is a DO, which essentially is like, for me, the best of both worlds. They're both a medical doctor, but bring in the Eastern wellness element to it. So they can prescribe you medication, but that's not their first go-to. They're more concerned about treating the whole body.
Oh, I like
mind,
that.
Body, spirit, and the whole connection, how it all works as
Lost
one.
me at spirit, but all right, go on.
So I explained to this doctor, this is the first time a doctor has ever listened to me say this. I've had this condition for as long as I can, most of my adulthood, probably late teens is when I really started noticing it. And I've always kept it to myself. I've always been mostly able to mask it, but it's sort of embarrassing. I go limp whenever I laugh or talk to a stranger.
You mean like just laughing right now makes you go limp?
No, it has to be triggered. Like, it has to be a certain level of laughter, kind of like intense laughter. I know a lot of people are like, oh my God, they can't breathe, like there's like that, but it's even more so. And the talking to stranger things is kind of whenever I feel embarrassed or even really excited or like I can't wait to tell a joke, which now I'm like, I got to write a whole short about this because I do stand up telling jokes and laughing and my body goes limp. So,
wow.
But anyway, I only knew it by those two things that triggered it. And I was like, it's so weird. But I knew it was like a connection to my brain and neurological, which freaked me out. I thought maybe it was like a petit mal, like some kind of seizure or something. I knew something was off. But doctors just looked at me like I was nuts or like,
But that's crazy, too, that they would look at you like you were nuts. So nobody ever wanted to explore that.
No, they just thought it was like, oh, that's probably fine. Like, as long as you're not losing consciousness or it's not like a seizure.
As long as you're not dead, we're okay.
Then I think you're okay.
Yeah, you'll be fine.
So I've noticed more recently it's gotten a little more intense or I've just been more aware of it. And I told this doctor about it, and she said right away, she was like, she asked me a lot of questions, same thing, like, are you conscious? Are you losing consciousness? And I said, no, I'm totally awake when it's happening, and I'm not, like, convulsing. It's just, like, my body, like, I lose strength totally, like, my legs give out, kind of. And that's the embarrassing part, right? And so she's like, okay, you got to see a neurologist. You got to get an MRI. We should do a brain scan to make sure, see what kind of activity is going on, etc. Great doctor visit overall. She checked all the nuts and bolts and bits and pieces.
Yeah.
And vitals so far okay. I have to get my lab work done. But I was having a conversation with a friend who was talking about somebody with Lou Gehrig's disease. And not that those were the same symptoms I was having, but as he was talking about neurological conditions, I started looking it up. I went to Google, trusty old Google.
Got to.
And found this diagnosis called cataplexy. And it's I was like, my eye felt like so seen for the first time in my life. It is exactly what I'm describing. It's muscle weakness and limpness based on, triggered by strong emotion or laughter.
And you never thought to Google this before?
I did, but I never found it until now. And it was through looking for something else that it kind of like led me down this rabbit hole. Well, there's another little piece of that, and that is most commonly a symptom of narcolepsy. Never in my life. Everyone thinks it's like, oh, you have trouble falling asleep, or you fall asleep at random times.
Right, like you could fall asleep in the middle of this podcast, which I get.
And for some people, it is that severe. You can't drive. There's all these things. But because mine is manageable, it made so much sense when I was telling my doctor.
Wait, so you already had narcolepsy?
I didn't know that, but now it's making sense. So now I have to go in and get an official diagnosis by it. But based on everything I'm reading, I'm like, yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
That is so crazy.
Yeah, and I never ever would imagine. Apparently, it's mostly genetic, and there's not really anything you can do. There's no cure for it. You can manage it with medication or taking naps, and, which is what I've been doing.
Excuse me, at work. This is my required nap.
Yeah, but for me, it was more like I was feeling like I could just never catch up. Like I have extreme exhaustion during the day, and I would need a nap, or if I'm in a car, not driving, but if I'm in somebody's car as a passenger, I am out. Even if it's like a 5-minute drive or a 10-minute drive.
Really?
Yeah, out. And I mean like blackout, like
wow,
passed out. And then I'll wake up.
Where are we?
But I thought that was just
You must be a lot of fun on road trips.
Yeah, the worst. I'm the worst. Don't ever ask me to like help you stay awake, because I'm out like the second I sit in that car. And I just thought it was part of being an adult. I thought you're an adult. You're exhausted all the time.
Wow. That's really crazy.
It is. I feel in one way it's kind of scary, because so now we have to figure out what the cause is. So I have to go get probably the way that they diagnose narcolepsy apparently is like through a needle up your spine. That doesn't sound fun. They have to draw fluid. And
Didn't you have one of those when you had a baby?
Yeah, but I've sort of blocked it out.
Oh, well, you should have had a second one. This will be your second one.
Yeah, all right. So it's usually one of two things. It's genetic or caused by trauma, which could be a whole list of things I really don't want to get into, because I'm hoping it's just genetic.